Hello and welcome everybody to a very special live stream that we've got today. We are doing an Arkham Horror game book actual play. I am joined by author Jonathan Green. Jonathan, how are you?
Hello, I'm well, thank you.
Good. Great to have you here. We're going to be going through your second Arkham Horror game book, The Tides of Innsmouth.
That's right.
Because you previously, I mean, it was probably more or less a year exactly since we got together last time
I think
to
it was.
play through some of your first Arkham Horror game book, Darkness Over Arkham. Like, how have things gone in that intervening time?
The Aconyte Books were keen to do more. I think the first one went down well with Fantasy Flight Games as well. So the first one, it was very much a case of we want an adventure set in Arkham, we want to have weird cults, and then we'd like to base it around one of the kind of releases for the Arkham Horror card game, which is why we ended up with the story we did, without giving any spoilers away if people haven't read it. But in the second one was a bit more freedom. And when it was first suggested that there'd be Arkham Horror game books, I really like the setting of Innsmouth because I really like the shadows over Innsmouth. I just think it's a great story, and the twist and just the idea of these gribbly fishermen living at the bottom of the ocean with whatever else. So also they didn't want to do on set in Arkham because there's a release this summer for the card game which does something else with Arkham. So they thought if we can keep it away from that, although the stories are evergreen because they're coming out at the same time. So when I suggested Innsmouth, they were very keen on that. So it's kind of the game book I really wanted to write, which is really nice.
That's great. Yeah, because is it like, I mean, you don't have to spoil things, and we're going to play
Yeah,
some very soon. But is it like faithful to Shadows of Innsmouth? Are you taking inspiration and taking it in new directions, or?
absolutely. So it's not a retelling of the Shadows of Innsmouth, but if you know the story well, you can visit places from the story. There are a few Easter eggs in there for fans as well, and one of the things that you can get in these books is achievements, which are, well, they call them secrets, which you can tick off. And one is called The Shadows of Innsmouth because it implies that possibly this is a story that happens before that short story.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's great. And is there connections to, because it's all a shared universe, isn't it? Arkham Horror. So the other game book is in the same world as this, and the
Yes.
card game and the role playing game. It's all connected,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the idea is that they're all standalone adventures, but yes, they're all set within the same setting sometime in the 1920s. It's kind of
Right.
a bit more nebulous in that respect. But yeah, you don't need to play them in any particular order. But one of the things which you can do is in each book, you get three investigators, and you can play any adventure with any investigator. So if you wanted to, you could use one of the characters from this book, or you could use one of the characters from the first book. So, for example, Agnes Baker could take part in this adventure, and there's other ones on the website. There's even ones that appeared in the Terror at the End of Time comic, and it's all completely compatible.
Oh, that's great. So because we're going to get into this momentarily, but you actually choose your character that you want to use. You've got three separate choices, haven't you, in the start of this book, and each
Yes.
one starts in a different place. So where do you, if you're bringing a previous character, where do you
Yeah.
jump into the story?
So they always start at number one.
Right. Okay.
So
So
there is a kind of extra mini introduction for each of the characters in this book,
right.
but you can play as any character. They just won't have that at the start.
Okay, that's great. So you're so presumably once we've started, we'll do a little intro and then we'll loop to number one and
Yeah.
join everybody
So
else.
we try, and the investigators in the book have some sort of connection to that setting. It's not completely randomly picked.
Sure.
So, um, yeah, without giving too much away, the characters in this one of them in particular, has a very strong family connection to Innsmouth, which is why we included him. But you don't have to play as him.
Right, okay. Well, we're going to be playing as Silas Marsh today, and
That's
we're
the
going
one.
to be. He's the cover star. So everybody, on the cover, there's a very handsome sort of, almost Jason Momoa, Aquaman style chap. That's who we've decided we're going to play as today, the cover star, and we're going to be looking. I'm going to be looking for a bit of help from chat. So hello everybody who's here in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. Once we get started, Jonathan is going to read the sections and the each choice and sort of and read aloud, essentially take us on the journey, and then we together, chat and I are going to make the choices for our character Silas and what we want to do, and then we're going to go. We're going to get going. I'm told there's a bit of a glitch, a bit of a lag. We were having some technical problems earlier. I don't know if it's my computer struggling in the heat, but hopefully we'll come through the other side without too much challenge. You know what? I'm gonna do a little technical jiggery pokery and see if there's anything that we can do to make sure things don't skip too much. But if there is a problem, I think we are getting a bit of lag. So forgive me, everybody at home, for that. I think it might be my computer struggling a bit with the heat, unfortunately. Let me know in the chat. Are we still glitching? Have we come back out of it? It might be that we just have to sort of muddle through. Hopefully, folks can still hear us. Okay. A very Arkham kind of issue. Ghosts coming for us and all sorts of.
Machine.
No, yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think we're probably going to have to muddle through, and I apologise to anyone and to you as well, John, for the issues. But I think if we get started and then we see how we go through the story, hopefully folks can still hear us.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring up our character sheet for Silas. It's only small, so forgive me if you can't quite see it. I'll try and make it a little bit bigger so folks can see it between us. So this is our character sheet. I don't know, John, do you want to tell us a little bit about how the characters work? Obviously, there's a couple of stats and there's going to be dice rolls and stuff like that.
Yes. So each character or each investigator has 5 main attributes, which is willpower, intellect, combat, health, and sanity. And those will come into play during the adventure. And generally, it'll be a case of rolling 1 or 2 dice, possibly adding or some adjustment to that number based on particular weaknesses or skills or abilities you'll have. But then also characters have a starting item which won't ever be referenced directly in the game, but will have an in-game effect. And equally, there's major abilities, major weaknesses, which again don't get mentioned in the text. But for example, with Silas Marsh, his major ability is that he's a drifter. So whenever you spend a resource as part of a test, if the test is successful, you gain 1 resource. So basically it doesn't cost you anything if it's a successful test. But then other abilities, he's got a sailor, tough, and survivor, and those will be referenced in the text. And then it'll have an adjustment accordingly.
Right, okay, that's interesting. I'm sorry to say, John, that we are getting some glitching with the sound, unfortunately. So some folks can't quite hear us clearly. So I'm going to see if there is... What could we do? I might potentially have to turn off our screens, potentially, and there might be an audio only, and we can see if that manages to resolve it for us.
Okay.
So let's do that. And now, forgive me, everyone. We'll turn off our visuals, and we're just going to go audio only for the time being. And if you want to turn your camera off as well, John.
Yeah.
Okay. So, folks, hopefully we're a little bit clearer. Let me know in the chat if you can hear us okay. Not ideal, but if we can still hear the story and embrace the story, hopefully that'll get us through. So, in the chat, just give me a quick nod if you can hear us all right. There is a little bit of a delay, so folks might not be able to hear us quite. But I'm going to give it a moment. Technical errors, technical issues. It's a classic. It's a internet classic. Martha has just decided to join me as well. So I'm having all of the technical issues over
She's
here.
come to work her magic. So if you had an investigator profile, Jordan, would Martha come under major ability or major weakness?
I think major ability. I think Martha. I think she's a problem solver. So I think she'd
Good.
get involved, especially if those problems are rats in the walls. I'll just pose the question in the chat to folks to see if they can let us know if okay, the audio seems better. I've frozen the picture. I've turned the pictures off. So hopefully that's going to get us through. So should we get started then, John? And we can
Yes.
start the adventure as Silas Marsh.
Yes. So because Silas is one of the investigators in the book, he does get his own mini introduction as well. It was the first line of the advertisement that grabbed your attention as you were flicking through the newspaper. Adventurous individual required. A renowned academic needed help looking for a long-lost pirate ship. But when you saw that the ship sank off the Innsmouth coast, you decided the job wasn't for you. You have avoided the rotting fishing town for a long time, and with good reason. There is something wrong about the place, something connected to those who share the Marsh family name. But then the dreams returned, of alien cities hidden in the soundless depths of the ocean, inhabited by inhuman horrors. And you knew then that you would never be able to rest until you faced your demons. And to do that, you must return to the town of your birth, Innsmouth. So, if you're playing along at home, you need to turn to section 22.
Okay, 22.
Innsmouth is almost cut off from its neighbouring towns by the treacherous marshes and brackish creeks surrounding it. And the only way in and out of the town by land is via the coastal highway, which is as neglected and decrepit as the rest of the town's infrastructure. It is far more convenient to access the town from the sea, especially when you have your own boat. While the sky overhead is overcast, the fog that seems to almost perpetually blanket the town is thankfully absent. That and a relatively calm sea makes navigation a far easier task than it might be. Avoiding the treacherous shoals of Devil Reef, you bring your boat into Innsmouth harbour without any trouble. The jetties, wharves and derricks are a rotting reminder of how grand the harbour used to be. The shells of abandoned warehouses cling to the harbour side like limpets, and the flaking planks and posts of the piers that remain are smothered with lank seaweed and clusters of bivalves. You moor your vessel among those already at rest along the southern edge of the harbour, as close to the breakwater as possible. Grabbing a pack containing some supplies, you disembark. Take +3 resources.
Excellent.
So
I've made a note of that.
Excellent. At any other fishing port along the coast of New England, you would expect to see the harbour area teeming with stevedores and mariners at this time, but Innsmouth harbour appears almost deserted. Those fishermen you do see huddled together on the quayside, smoking their pipes and muttering to one another in their almost incomprehensible local dialect, stare at you blankly with the same unblinking, slack-faced expressions. But there is one old sea dog who doesn't share this curious Innsmouth look. His lean and tattered form gives him the appearance of a scarecrow instead. While he may appear normal to you, he also seems to be talking to himself. When he catches sight of you, he waves you over. So you have your first choice. Do you want to stop and talk to the old man? Or would you prefer to head into town for your rendezvous with Dr. Addison?
Okay, so we can stop and talk to this unusual, well, probably the more usual of the characters in a way, right? So we can have that conversation, or we can just crack on and go straight into town and get to our appointment. I've got to say, I'm inclined, personally, my vote would be to go and have a chat. But let's see if folks in the chat have any thoughts themselves. Should we go and speak to this strange old man? Or should we just head into town, go and meet Dr. Addison, which is what we're here for after all? We'll give folks a moment to make that call and then see what people want to do. And then if we don't, if folks don't have an opinion at this stage, I'll make the call myself. But let's see what people think. I am nervous, John. Already there are people who have the Innsmouth look. I mean, that's definitely That's definitely something to be afraid of. I know.
Oh, definitely.
I've read some stories. I know what it's about.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I think in the original source material is such a creepy aspect of it. Just this fact that, and it's so clever how it's, clearly what it's meant to be, but how it can start as something so human and then gradually the features that become dominant and other things that happen physically.
Yeah,
Just
it's very
that
creepy.
sort of really disturbing creepiness rather than out and out horror. It's just always there in the background.
Yeah, exactly that. I think we're gonna go and talk to the old man. I think that's what
Okay,
we'll do.
so that's section 42. You make your way over to where the old man is sitting on a lobster pot and wish him a good day. His face suddenly darkens, and he stabs an accusing finger in your face. What you think you're doing mooring your boat on this godforsaken shore? Smelling the liquor on his breath, you understand what has given his anger such a strong voice. But it is more than just anger, it is fear as well. Get out, this town is cursed. Get back on your boat and be gone, else you'll find yourself down at the bottom of the briny deep, feeding the fish, or cavorting with the rest of them. You have to imagine that he has an actual accent in the story. The old man's fury unsettles you. Perhaps it's the curious appearance of the other Innsmouth fishermen, but on hearing the sea dog's words, your mind suddenly fills with visions of twisted creatures gathered in a great tumult at the bottom of the sea, where they squirm and writhe like a knot of hagfish. But they aren't fish. They're something much worse, for they are both humanoid in appearance and yet, at the same time, far less than human. So you have to take -1 sanity, but +1 clue.
Okay. I'm not pleased about losing sanity, but a clue, that's always good.
I've just seen one comment in the chat saying, talk to him, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you can go a little bit mad. This is Arkham Horror after all. A lot can go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where Arkham Horror, the setting, differs from the original Lovecraftian stories in that, in a Lovecraft, you're either going to die or go completely mad. But at least in Arkham Horror, you have the chance to fight back.
Yeah, because it's a bit more... Because you are like maybe a little bit more active and I don't want to say more capable, but you're not damned in quite the same way, are you?
No. So, okay. So having lost 1 sanity and gained 1 clue,
Mm-hmm.
Get away from me, old timer, you say, backing away. Well, if you won't leave, he says, pulling a bottle wrapped in a brown paper bag from a deep coat pocket and thrusting it toward you. Take this, and don't say I didn't warn you. The reek of alcohol is strong. If you want to take the bottle of whiskey, record it on your character sheet and take +1 resource. And you also gain the secret, drunk and disorderly. And then we turn to 63. So it's, if you want to take, I think we'll leave that one up to you, Jordan, if you want to take the whiskey or not. But if you do, you gain a resource. So that probably gives you an idea of what you should do.
I think we'll take the whiskey.
And then we turn to 63.
Would agree with that one.
Yeah. The fishing town is a mere shadow of what it used to be a century ago. Decades of neglect have left the once impressive public and private buildings of that time in a state of disrepair and near total collapse for many. It has nothing to offer the outside world. There is no university as there is in Arkham, no hospital such as the one in Kingsport, and the railway companies stopped coming to Innsmouth long ago. That said, 3 tall steeples loom above the sagging roofs and the fallen facades of the surrounding buildings. Although given the top of one of these has collapsed, in another there are gaping black holes where clock dials must once have been. So do you have the weakness tainted lineage?
Let's take a look. So this is on my character sheet, isn't it?
Yeah, this is on his investigator profile.
Okay. I do. Silas Marsh does have the tainted lineage weakness.
Yes. For people who know the original story, the fact he's called Marsh is a bit of a giveaway. So that means we turn to 83.
So that's fun. Your actual, like your traits, your weaknesses, some of this pre-existing stuff on your character sheet directly, like that's how you're creating these different branching elements as well as the choices.
Yes.
That's great.
So again, it's even if you played the adventure before, you can choose a different character and it will just open up other avenues that you might not have been able to explore before. So, section 83. The Gilman House Hotel is a 4-story building. and the only remaining establishment of its kind in the town. And, like Innsmouth itself, what might once have been considered luxurious is now but a shadow of its former self. Its walls are covered with faded, peeling yellow paint, while the pair of cupolas that adorn its roof and help it stand out against the skyline of the decaying town are in a sorry state of disrepair. But nonetheless, this is where Dr. Addison is staying and where you agreed to meet her. The hotel lobby is as shabby as the exterior facade, and there is only one member of staff on duty as far as you can tell. He is an elderly man who, you are relieved to see, does not have the curious Innsmouth look that so many of the local populace appear to share. You take a seat on a mouldering couch and wait for Dr. Addison to arrive for your meeting. The old man behind the desk doesn't say anything, but his silent stare keeps seeking you out. However, 2 o'clock comes and goes with no sign of the academic making an appearance. When the clock on the wall reads 1:15, you start to wonder if she's forgotten your appointment. And when it is 1/2 the hour, your irritation at being forgotten has turned to a simmering anger. What do you want to do? Stay where you are in the hope that Dr. Addison will eventually make an appearance, or go to Dr. Addison's room and see if she is there?
Ooh, okay, folks. What do we think there? I mean, I'm often inclined to be patient and to wait these things out, but then, if you're in an Arkham Horror story, do you really want to just sit around and wait for the madness to come for you, or do you want to go and seek out some answers? So, in the chat, let us know whether you think we should be sitting and waiting, or we should be going and trying to find the doctor. Let's give folks a moment to share their view on this one. I did like, Jonathan, the references to some of the other locations from across the Arkham, the setting. So we
Yes.
mentioned Kingsport and the university and stuff like that as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I imagine it's quite fun to be able to play around in the Cthulhu mythos and the world of all of this sort of stuff.
Very much so. Yeah, when you're pitching one of these, it's you kind of all the things that you'd like to include, and you see what people suggest, and sometimes they come back and say, yes, and you could do this as well. But it's not a bad job when you have to research something by reading, like Welcome to Arkham, which is the beautifully laid out background book, which Aconyte Books published, and actually won an award at the UK Games Expo 2024 for its graphic design.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, poring over those, picking out popular locations, you think it'd be quite fun to set something there. And also, a lot of the time, reading those sort of books will give you the story hooks in the first place to come up with the adventure.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good fun. So we've had a vote here. We want to go to the room.
Okay.
That feels like a reasonable choice rather than just waiting for our fate. So let's do it. Let's go and seek them out.
Okay, so that's section 233. Approaching the reception desk, you ask the elderly hotelier which room Dr. Stella Addison is staying in. He glances down at the ledger in front of him before replying that she is in room 428 on the top floor. He does not challenge you as you walk towards the stairs, and upon reaching the top floor, you find the room you're looking for. You knock on the door and wait. Hearing nothing from the other side, you knock again, calling out her name. Dr. Addison? You wait a little longer this time. When there's still no response, you try a third time. Dr. Addison, are you there? Apparently, she is not. Perhaps the curious atmosphere that pervades the town is getting to you, but you start to imagine all sorts of dire ends for the academic. Are they truly ridiculous flights of fancy, or has something actually happened to Dr. Addison? Excuse me. There is only one way you're going to find out, and that is by entering her room. She could be lying unconscious within, in need of medical aid. You try the handle, and while it turns, the door remains shut. It is clearly locked. How do you want to proceed? Go back downstairs and get the room key, or try to force your way in?
Okay. I think I'll make this choice, and I'm going to say let's force our way in. Let's try and force our way into this one.
Okay. So that's section 41. You try the handle again, but the door remains firmly locked. Do you have the rogue ability or the criminal weakness?
So I definitely do not have the criminal weakness. Let's have a look. Other abilities. No, I do not, unfortunately, have either.
Okay, so we need to turn to 295.
Okay.
Taking a firm hold of the handle, you slam your shoulder into the door, hoping that the force of the impact will splinter the wood around the lock. So now you need to roll one die and add your combat. And if you have the tough ability, you can add one.
Okay, so I've got my die. I've got my... and it's D6 that we're using, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
And I do have the tough ability. So I'm going to be rolling a die plus my combat of 4 plus 1 for tough.
Yep.
So I've rolled a 3. So that gives me 8 in total.
Yep. That's lucky. If it's 8 or more, you turn to 275.
Fantastic.
So
there we go.
Just enough. So 275. As you had hoped, the wood around the lock splinters and you half stumble into the room. Turn to 235.
Oh.
Dr. Addison's room is as dismal as the rest of the hotel. 2 windows look out over a dingy courtyard hemmed in by low, deserted brick buildings. Through the grimy panes, you can also see the unfarmable, waterlogged countryside that lies beyond the dilapidated roofs of the decaying town. The decor of the room is dreary, the furnishings cheap and poorly made. There is no sink in the room, the occupant being expected to make use of the musty communal bathroom at the end of the hall. There is a bed, a rickety wardrobe, and a small table against one wall with a chair beside it. What there isn't is any sign of Dr. Addison, but the way everything has been left would imply that the occupant of the room fully intends to return. The academic clearly hasn't checked out, but she has still missed your appointment. Your attention is drawn to the pile of papers that have been left heaped haphazardly on the table. Rummaging through them, you find 3 items of particular interest: a book of Tide Times, a copy of the Innsmouth Tribune, and what is quite clearly Dr. Addison's diary. What do you want to do? Flick through the book of Tide Times, take a close look at the Innsmouth Tribune, open Dr. Addison's diary, or leave the room and the hotel and go in search of Dr. Addison elsewhere.
Okay, folks. Well, there's a big choice. So we've got 4 different options. Let us know in the chat which one you think we should do. So we can take a look at the Book of Tide Times, which at first I thought that sounds is very ominous, but I'm guessing that could just be the actual tides coming in. We could take a look at the Innsmouth Tribune, which is presumably the newspaper.
That's right, yep.
And then there is Dr. Addison's diary, which may be crossing a line. And then we could just leave the room and the hotel and continue our search elsewhere. So quite interesting options there. I feel like we could discover a fair bit here if we make the right choice. Temptation is very strong to maybe read the diary, even though again it seems like that might be tempting fate. Plus, it's very inappropriate to just be picking up and reading someone's diary, even if you are in a sort of Lovecraftian nightmare, because you never know what you're going to find. But what do folks think in the chat? Intriguing. I do wonder about the nature of this room as well. I know it says that Addison's not checked out, or it doesn't seem like she's checked out. But the fact that she's not arrived for our appointment, I don't know. It sets the hairs racing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got... we do have a little bit of a delay on the chat still, so it might be that folks take a moment to ponder which of these options they're most interested in. Checking out the Book of Tide Times, consulting the Innsmouth Tribune, or reading Dr. Addison's diary, or just abandoning it all and continuing the search. I'm always curious, Jonathan, about the how you know, like how many sections you know you need when you're writing a book like this.
Yes, I mean with These are commissioned at 300 sections, so everything has to fit within that.
So you're kind of constrained from the off.
Yes, so it's a lot of planning, basically.
Right.
Breaking down the adventure into... I generally would break it down into 3 acts, and then each act I break down into individual scenes. So some classic game books people might know are kind of sort of dungeon crawl, so let's make a map go left or right. Whereas I hadn't really thought about it until I read a review of somebody else about my work, and they said it's plotted like a film rather than like a journey, and I thought that's a very good way of describing it, actually. So then I break down the scenes, so I have a rough idea when I start of how many sections I'll need for each scene. So when I worked out you go to her room, I sort of allowed a certain number. There's always some flexibility built into that, so that if one runs on longer, or I combine things elsewhere, so that it does all finish off at a nice round 300.
That makes sense. But
one of the nice things about the Arkham books is the secrets, and you don't find them all by doing the correct path. You have to explore all sorts of options to find all of them. So sometimes it means you can allow yourself a bit of wiggle room, and if you've got spare sections left over, you can add an option somewhere which will just take you to the section where you find another secret.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I like the idea of the sort of achievements and the Easter eggs that you can pick up as you go. I think we've got a unanimous decision from chat here to check out the diary. So people want to cross that line and check out what Dr. Addison's been writing.
So, Dr. Addison's diary, so that's section 184. You feel slightly uncomfortable reading the Doctor's diary, but if you're invading her privacy, as if you're invading her privacy by doing so, but needs must. Finding today's date, you see 2 p.m. written in pencil and your initials next to it. There are no other appointments recorded in the diary for this week. However, scribbled across the bottom of the page is the following note. Tidal tunnels under town. Entrance exposed at low tide. Link to the little bookshop? ? Having already crossed the line by reading Dr. Addison's diary, you decide to cross another one and take the diary with you. What would you like to do next? Take a close look at the Book of Tide Times, examine the Innsmouth Tribune, or leave the room and the hotel to go in search of Dr. Addison.
Okay, so we seem to have been rewarded by our little crossing there. So in the chat, folks, do we want to take a look at the Book of Tide Times, the Innsmouth Tribune, or continue our journey elsewhere and leave the hotel? I think there's some clues within our little what we've read there. Very interesting. I mean, of course, just going back to that, on today's date, 2 p.m., written in pencil with the initials next to it.
Yep.
So that's our appointment, presumably. But tidal tunnels under the town, entrance exposed at low tide. Link to the little bookshop. Intriguing, I would say. I was curious, actually, Jonathan, just when you were talking, whilst we give people a chance to enter in the chat, the secrets that are in here, is it possible to get them all in one successful playthrough, or are there things that you sort of can't? No, there are things.
So there are some which are literal dead ends,
right?
But you'd gain an extra one. So yeah, you have to be pretty committed to find them all. But yes,
right.
But I think when you sort of tick them off as you're reading it, some of them probably make people intrigued as to what they might have missed, and or it gives some sort of context of how maybe you have to find them. And just as an author, it's great fun because you get to play up to the theme. So they're not particularly subtle. I've got things like there's a secret called a kettle of fish. Another one is swimming with the fishes. Old sea dog's tails in deep water. Then you have various ones: red herring, slippery as an eel. So
that's great. I think we're gonna go for the Book of Tide Times. I think we check it out.
Okay. Right, so that's 142. In reality, the book is a cheaply produced pamphlet containing the predicted tide times for the week and printed locally. You find today's date and scan the list of times for today's tides. You notice that the time for low tide is 16:36, and it's been circled in pencil, while in the margin, in a neat hand, has been written "Accessed from beach?" ? However, you find nothing else jotted down inside the pamphlet. Take +1 clue and the Book of Tide Times. A sudden noise outside the room makes you start. It sounded like something being dragged along the hallway outside. You freeze, barely daring to breathe, as the shuffling footsteps move away along the corridor. What do you want to do now? Continue to examine the papers on the table, or leave the hotel without delay and go in search of Dr. Addison?
Ooh, okay. So something could be going on outside. I mean, that's a tough one because you don't want to necessarily run straight out into the middle of whatever might be happening outside. Well, maybe you do. Maybe people want to be heroic. We know we're a sort of strapping fisherman type. Maybe we're ready and able to step in. Do we want to leave the hotel without delay, or do we want to continue examining the papers? What do people think? Let us know in the chat. Do you, John, have to think about like how many are in investigative scenes and how many are combat scenes and that kind of thing? Do you have like a
I do
checklist?
try and balance that out. I mean, compared to a lot of game books, there's a lot less combat in the Arkham Horror ones because the idea of the whole game is investigation. You know, it's an investigator. You're not just an adventurer. You are an investigator. So there has to be that kind of search for clues. And it's a weird mix between having clues that are things you collect in the game and can then spend elsewhere, as well as actual literal clues that you as the reader have to try and work out how they might be helpful or to deduce things later on. So yes, it's I almost gave something away there. I'm not sure I can mention it. But for example, if there were to be another one of these, you know, I might like to do kind of a locked room mystery with you kind of cozy, so a bit more of an Agatha Christie. You've got a certain number of suspects, and gradually as events proceed, you've got fewer and fewer suspects,
right?
Which could, you know, really play up to the investigation side. But it is also Arkham Horror, so you still get to include monsters, which is fun.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, actually, that's very interesting. Almost makes one wonder why there isn't or maybe there is a Christie sort of game book series or that kind of thing.
That's a good point. I don't know, actually. I know that various ones based on Sherlock Holmes have been written before, and I will confess from the start that I haven't read any of them. But for me, I've got an idea as an author, something I'd like to do, but it would be within the world of Sherlock Holmes. It wouldn't be that you are Sherlock Holmes, because for me, it's like the Doctor in Doctor Who. He's the smartest guy in the room. So if you're playing the character, you'd know all the answers. So you'd have to have someone adjacent to him and possibly remove him from the action at least most of the time, because otherwise your choices would be meaningless.
Of course, yeah.
And you have to have be invested in it and have agency. That's what I'm looking for as a player to make it matter.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always the challenge, isn't it, with a Holmes-esque character?
Yeah.
So we've got a vote. We want. Oh, well, I think the decision is split. We've got Tribune and Outside. I think we'll go with the first response. So we're going to go for the Tribune. We're going to continue examining the papers on the table for now.
Right. So that's section 111. 11T1. As you are perusing the papers, you hear the sound of shuffling footsteps again, and then the rattle of someone trying the door. Fear prevents you from calling out to ask if it is Dr. Addison. She would have her own key, surely. And besides, you get the eerie, instinctual sensation that whatever is making those shuffling footsteps is not fully human. Before you can formulate an escape plan, the door opens and you see the silhouettes of several people standing in the passageway. The corridor is in darkness, and you cannot discern the expressions of the people standing there, but you are all too aware of their rasping breathing and the rank smell that accompanies them, like dead fish washed up and left to rot on the seashore. You turn away in horror and cross the room opposite them in a single bound, intending to throw yourself out of the window to get away. As you pull up the sash, you feel strong hands grab your shoulders, and then something heavy and hard strikes you between your shoulder blades. There is a moment of sharp pain followed by cold oblivion. Take -2 health.
Oh boy, this is not a good start.
No. Okay, having done that, you need to roll 1 die and deduct 1 if you have the survivor or tough ability.
So we do have tough. We know that. I'm just going to check. Let's go and check our character sheet to see if we have survivor. I don't believe we do. We do. So would that be cumulative, or is it just the one?
It's not cumulative, so that's why it's phrased if you have it all. So if you've got both, it doesn't help you anymore.
That makes perfect sense. So let's roll our d6 and see what we get. So we rolled a 1. So if we deduct 1, that's 0. Is that correct?
Yep.
Fantastic. Is that fantastic?
So, well, is the total equal to or less than your health, or is it greater than your health? Well, your health's not 0.
So it's okay, right? So we're less equal to
298. You wake to darkness and a bump the size of an egg on the back of your head. You are lying on a cold marble floor, so you sit up and immediately regret the decision, as you are beset by a splitting headache and a wave of nausea churns your stomach. You flop back onto the floor, and it is then that you realise your wrists have been tied behind your back. Your ankles have been bound too. A groan of discomfort escapes your lips and is answered by another groan from beside you. Blinking, you peer into near total darkness and see shapes start to resolve as your eyes become accustomed to the gloom. There are no details, only shapes, and the closest of those is Dr. Addison. You have both been taken prisoner and brought to this place, wherever this place is, but for what purpose you dread to think. If a certain segment of the local populace didn't want you sticking your nose into their affairs, why keep you alive at all? There are windows in this room, but all you can see through them is an oily darkness and strands of jaundiced fog. With your vision dramatically impaired by the lack of light, you focus on your other senses to see what you can learn. The air is redolent with curious scents, the strange melange of incense and damp, but it lacks the salty tang of the ocean. While the chamber you've been left in is quiet, it is not silent. You can hear the faint echo of gargling voices coming from somewhere nearby. As you strain to make out distinct words and phrases, you hear the ringing of approaching footsteps. Yellow light abruptly finds its way into the room, and the black silhouette of a figure enters the chamber. Fearing what might be about to happen, you start to panic and try to wriggle out of the way as the figure bends down beside Dr. Addison. But rather than haul the academic to her feet and drag her away, the stranger sets to loosening the knots binding her. When Dr. Addison is free, they turn their attention to helping you. As soon as you are both free, you hear a voice hiss, "Come on, this way!" You are disoriented enough that you're unsure if it was the stranger or Dr. Addison who spoke. Certainly the feminine voice sounded familiar, but you thought it came from the door that now stands ajar, while the doctor is next to you. But such uncertainty is irrelevant when it comes to fleeing your captors. Your saviour ducks through the door, and by the time you and Dr. Addison have made it out of the room, you see them disappear around the corner at the end of the corridor you're in. Muffled chanting fills the corridor from behind one of 2 other doors, the first to the left, the other to the right. But the reverberation of sound throughout the hall makes it difficult to determine which. As you are considering which way to go in the poorly lit passageway, you can just make out curious murals covering the walls, although details are difficult to discern. You have lost sight of your rescuer, but a soft voice carries from the end of the hall. "Don't delay. This way." "We have to get out of here," Dr. Addison urges you from behind. But your curiosity is piqued. "Where are we?" you ask. "I believe we've been captured by the Esoteric Order of Dagon," the academic replies. When you look at her blankly, she hurriedly explains. "They're a cult of fish-worshipping degenerates who practice human sacrifice to honour their blasphemous ocean-dwelling deities, which is why we have to get out of here now." You think the curious voices you can hear are coming from the door to the right, while golden light is spilling from the room to the left. So what do you want to do? Go through the door to the left, go through the door to the right, or follow your mysterious saviour and head for the end of the corridor?
Oh, okay. So this is I think we're really in it now. As Anthony in the chat has said, yes, we were told to get outside, but at least we found Dr. Addison. So we've sort of failed forward perhaps a little bit here. But yes, folks in the chat, do we want to go through the door on the left or the door on the right? Or do we want to go down the corridor and follow our mysterious savior? I know what I think we should do, but let's see what people in the chat think we should do. I mean, we're all in so far. We're deep into the real horror of Innsmouth straight away. Captured by the esoteric order of Dagon. This is not where I was hoping to be on my seaside vacation, Jonathan.
No, not at all. It's like a bad weekend in Blackpool.
Gosh, so yeah, very much. I think Curiosity Killed the Cat is definitely a lesson we need to learn on this one. Or do we want to just keep going? They didn't kill us. Perhaps we're here for some other reason. So maybe we do want to investigate further, go through one of these doors and check people out. Or we could see where our savior wants to go. Is it a trap? Are they trying to lead us somewhere and get us to go and present ourselves in some way? Why did they just run off rather than actually staying and speaking to us? Are they nervous, or are they trying to do something? Is there something fishy afoot? Is there a Jonathan, a like length of each section that you need to keep to? Because obviously this section's a bit longer than some of the others.
I was thinking it's much longer. Generally, I have a rough word count of what I know the average section would be, and probably most of them are that long. But then every once in a while, like some of the ones we've read this evening, will be a lot shorter, and then you get to write the long ones. But I don't like to have too many long ones because it's a lot of exposition or moving things forward without the reader getting to make any choices. And for me, that's an important part of a game book, is that you have to have lots of choices and meaningful ones as well. So, I'm not keen on it where, for example, you have 3 choices and actually it doesn't make any difference which way you go. That's a false choice. Or game books where you read a section and it says, now turn to this section. You read that section and it's now turn to this section. It's like, that to me is a novelist. It's not somebody who wants to write game books. And sometimes you have to do it, inevitably. But yeah, as much as possible, I try to make sure that there's always a new choice to be made, or even if it's rolling a dice or seeing if you've got a particular ability or an object, but it's something which could branch the story.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tough balance, I imagine.
Yes, at times.
So we've got unanimity in our decision. We're going to follow the mysterious savior and head for the end of the corridor. That's
section 193. At the end of the corridor, you turn a corner and descend the staircase that awaits you there, with Dr. Addison still at your side. At the bottom, you find yourselves in a grand pillared hall. As you start to cross it, you realise that the two of you are being watched by the impassive faces of the great and the good of Innsmouth, who stare down at you from the walls with frozen watercolour and oil-painted eyes. Some of the paintings look like they date back to Innsmouth's founding and its heyday as a centre for both fishing and shipbuilding. 4 pillars support the roof, but they're made from some dark stone that you have not seen used anywhere else in the construction of this place. Between the pillars stand several marble busts of jowly, pompous-looking old men, and a few glass cabinets containing golden chains of office and opulent robes. Overwhelmed by the extravagance of it all, you slow your steps. It is then that you become aware of the slapping footsteps, as of someone trying to run wearing frogman flippers, on the stairs behind you. Turning, you see a gaggle of strangely garbed figures descending the stone staircase, their veiny, pallid arms outstretched toward you. They appear to be clad in little more than diaphanous robes of sapphire and emerald hue. You can only assume that these people are members of the esoteric order of Dagon, and, as such, had a hand in your abduction and imprisonment. How do you want to respond to their arrival? You can either turn and make your last stand against the order here, take something from your pack to use against your pursuers, or send some of the exhibits crashing to the ground in your wake as you flee the hall.
Right, okay, so we're being pursued by what seems to be these Dagonites. So we can either make a last stand. I mean, I can't believe we're already at the moment of making our last stand this early on. But we can make our last stand here. We can take something from our pack to use against the pursuers, or we can send some of the exhibits crashing to the ground and flee the hall. So, chat, let us know what you think we should do. I'm going to take a quick look at the pack. Let's see if we've got anything. So I don't. That would be anything that we've received or picked up. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yes.
Right. So I don't. We've not actually done. We've not picked up anything so far, have we? We've picked up.
We've got the Book of Tide Times.
We've got the Book
diary.
of Tide Times. We've got secrets and we've got clues, but we've not really picked up a load of sausage links or anything like that might help us in a pursuit. So feels like that one is out of the running. So it's either make our last stand or knock over a load of stuff and keep moving. Now let's see what folks in the chat think we should do on this one. Hard to say, really. I mean, if they are flipper-footed fellows, then there's a good chance they can't pursue very quickly. So just knocking a load of stuff, they might not be able to get around it. They might not be able to sort of clamber over it quickly and follow us quickly. So running away could be the sort of the answer here. Again, though, we are, we're not in bad shape. Silas Marsh, the sort of fisherman. Yep. So maybe we could take them out if we wanted to have a bit of a fight. We've also got, I noticed we've got a special ability, or a starting item with a special ability, our Sailor's Net. So once per adventure whilst in combat, we may immediately cancel the first dice roll and roll it again. So a bit of a bonus in combat. That's quite good.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have already taken 2 points of health damage, though. So although we started with 9, which I think is the highest of all of the characters in this book, we're a bit battered already at this point.
Yeah.
So let's see what folks think we should do. We've got 1 vote for crashing the exhibits, which seems like a good shout. Let's see if anyone else has got anything they want to add. Aztec wants us to do an inventory check, which we've done, and unfortunately, other than our Book of Tide Times, which I don't think is going to slow them down too much, I don't think we've got anything for that. Anton thinks we should flee as well. Let's go for that one then, Jonathan. Let's crash some of the exhibits to the ground and flee the hall.
So this is section 284. Seizing hold of a marble bust, you hurl it to the floor, where it shatters into 1,000 pieces. A cry goes up from the cultists, but they falter in their advance. Spurred on by their reaction, you grab hold of a glass cabinet and send that crashing to the ground as well. Feeling that you've probably done enough to delay the cultist pursuit, you head for the exit. Take +1 intellect. The relief you feel upon finally exiting the building is palpable, and you throw yourself down the steps outside the former Masonic Hall that now bears the name the Esoteric Order of Dagon. But you are not out of danger yet. You can hear the bare feet of the members of the Esoteric Order slapping on the stones of the steps as they chase after you and Dr. Addison, who is already some yards ahead. Turn to 200.
Okay.
And no choice this time. By the smothered glow of the street lamps, you can see the silhouettes of church spires looming up through the vapour around you. You seem to have lost anyone who might have been pursuing you. This is New Church Green, Dr. Addison says breathlessly as you catch up with her. That means the Manasseh River is south of here, and beyond that the town square. You might not be able to tell which way is north and which is south, thanks to the ever-present fog, but Dr. Addison seems to know, and so you're happy to let her take the lead as she moves with purpose in a direction that you presume is toward the river. As long as you're heading away from the headquarters of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, you don't really care where you're going. Reaching the bridge that crosses the meagre stream that empties into the Innsmouth harbour, you realise something is wrong. Through the fog, you can see webbed hands reaching over the bridge parapet as a dozen or more half-human horrors finish their climb from the lower falls below to the span of the bridge. On the other side lies the town square and a possible way out of Innsmouth. To remain here, you are sure, would mean certain death. So there really is no choice to be made. You and Dr. Addison both sprint toward the bridge and start to cross it as the fish things pull themselves up onto the low stone wall, ready to spring. Your heart racing, you keep running, your legs burning with the effort, but you manage to evade the grasping claws of the creatures. It is only when you're on the other side that you realise Dr. Addison is no longer with you. Spinning round, you see her struggling against a knot of the amphibious fishfolk. But before you can do anything to help her, the creatures holding her dive back over the side of the bridge, taking the academic with them. You hear a splash far below, and before the same fate can befall you, you race the last 100 yards to the town square. Unbelievably, Joe Sargent's bus service is pulled up there. The rumble of its engine increases as it prepares to depart, but when it does leave, it is with you on board. Peering through the window, you can see shadowy figures standing motionless within the perfidious fog. Why didn't they pursue you once you'd crossed the bridge? Was it only Dr. Addison they wanted all along? As the bus swings round and turns onto Federal Street, you catch your reflection in the glass and see the same slack expression worn by so many of the residents of Innsmouth staring back at you. Take the secret, the shadow over Innsmouth. And you have a final score of 3 stars.
Okay. Oh boy. So we've actually picked up a final score. So we more or less have failed.
You've reached an ending of sorts. Yes, there's one more section to read, but you do get scored on your endings. So there are multiple different starred endings. So if you reach one of those, you have completed the adventure. But it's how well you completed the adventure.
Not particularly well, I'm guessing. In this
3,
case.
yeah. Could be better.
Sure.
So we finally turn to section 300. It is some months later when you are stunned to see Dr. Addison again. In the intervening weeks, you'd almost managed to convince yourself that what happened on that day in Innsmouth had all been some dark dream, or a false memory born of a life-threatening fever. But while the outward marks of your ordeal have healed, visions of the horrors you witnessed in that corrupted place have haunted your dreams every night since. You did not expect to see the academic ever again, but you were particularly surprised to see her looking so well. You were sure she was a goner that night after she entered the water, and you certainly weren't in any position to save her. But as you regard her from the other side of the street, you do not feel inclined to make your presence known or speak with her. There is something unsettling about her manner, not in the same way that those afflicted with the Innsmouth look appear unsettling, but as if she hasn't been put together right. As you watch the fronds of her bright red hair rippling in the breeze, you are put in mind of sea stars that dwell in the ocean's depths, anchored by myriad tubular feet to the rocky outcroppings of hydrothermal vents, while their free arms waft in the warm water, searching for food. You feel a shiver of inexplicable primordial fear pass through you. And turning on your heel, walk away. You have no desire to ever have anything to do with Dr. Stella Addison again. After all, as they say, there are plenty more fish in the sea. The end.
Okay. So
I apologise for losing my voice at the end.
That's okay. There was a lot of reading there because of the choices we made, and we've sort of stumbled our way straight through a very, very quick run through the Tides of Innsmouth. I don't think that is the most successful of runs possible.
Yeah, I think that's if you get to the end that quickly, you know there's some more to be explored.
I think so.
It gives you a taste, but there's still plenty to explore if you want to play the adventure again yourself.
Indeed, yes. I mean, I think that's almost perfect actually, because we've been able to sample how it works and some of the mystery, but because of some of the choices we made there, and maybe our curiosity got the better of us, we've led ourselves straight to one of the possible endings. But there's many possible endings, aren't there, for the book?
Yes, there are. Yeah, and there's all sorts of encounters within the adventure as well. Lots of places to explore within the town of Innsmouth and below.
And 3 characters as well, so you can start in a very different way each time, right?
Oh yes, if you'd played, for example, as where are we? It's Kahaku Narakami, who's the folklorist who also appears in the book. You wouldn't have a boat, so you wouldn't have started by arriving in the harbour. You would have had a different beginning.
Right. Of course.
Or if you played as any character from another book, again, you'd start arriving. This isn't a spoiler. Arriving on the bus in the town square,
right,
and deciding what you want to do next.
Okay. Intriguing. Well, I think that was terrific fun, Jonathan. I did really enjoy. I
Good.
apologise to you and to everyone else for our technical issues. I might try just before we sign off to turn everything back on, and we'll see if we're still lagging. I fear we may still be, but that was really fun to get a sample of the Tides of Innsmouth and sort of get a flavour of the Arkham Horror game book experience.
Yeah, and it gives you an idea how it's different from other possible classic fantasy game book series where you fight through until you've either succeeded or you've been killed. Because it is that investigative nature, there's still lots of questions unanswered, having completed the adventure that way. But you did find one of the rarer secrets, the Shadow over Innsmouth. So it just happened to be the one I mentioned was playing on the source material. So anybody who knows the original story, when you're looking in the glass of the bus window.
Well, we got Drunk and Disorderly as well. We got 2 secrets.
Yes.
So that's not too bad. I'm not.
You'd have those
ticked
ticked off, so you see when you play again, you wouldn't need to worry about those.
Sure.
And
right. Yeah.
There's not just the secrets, because you then also get super secrets. You may have remembered that we picked up an intellect point, which wasn't of any use to us, but there's all sorts of things. So as well as there's the super secrets include collecting a certain group of secrets. It's also finishing the adventure with certain scores which you can gain. So for example, there's one where you finish with a combined combat and intellect and willpower of 15 or more. You get the hero super secret. But then if you finish with at least 3 stars, which we got, and a combined combat and intellect willpower of only 5, then you get the secret A Close Shave. So it has an impact on that.
Oh, that's cool. So there's quite a few different things to collect and sort of pick up as you go then.
Oh, yes. And then, there'll be completists who want to find all of the secrets and super secrets.
Sure, yeah, that's great. I'm going to try bringing us... Let's try turning our cameras back on, and we'll see if we get a final moment to say hello to folks. So hopefully, I mean, we might still be lagging and we might still be having some of the audio issues. Hopefully not. But yeah, I think that's really terrific fun. I like that it is a lot more investigative. It starts from a place of investigation. And then you're also getting... Like, it is very... Well, there's obviously this sinister presence, but it's... You're not just going to pick up your axe, or your sword, or your magic item and fight your way through. That was the sort of my initial reaction. Is like, oh, I guess I'll fight him. But actually, that's probably not the best way to go for a lot of this, right?
Yeah, especially when you think about the cult at the end. You don't know how many, what did you call it? Flipper-footed fellows there were.
Sure.
And it's you and Dr. Addison, so an academic and a sailor. So
yeah. Probably not the best the best way to go, but yeah, very good. That's very good fun. So it's available now, isn't it? Tides of Innsmouth.
Yes, it came out at the start of the month.
Right, and it's the second one. You don't have to have played the first one either, do you? Because it's
not at all.
separate.
No, they're standalone. So you could play this one first, and then if you enjoy it, pick up the Darkness over Arkham and see what's different about that one.
Fantastic. And
and also there are some rules we've introduced which. In future editions of the first book will be included, but you can find them, download them from the Arkham Horror website. But we've added rules for continuing the adventure. So it's not only that you can play as any character from any book or any download, you can continue the adventure as a character who you completed a previous adventure as. So if you'd played the Darkness over Arkham as Rex Murphy, say, and you were successful, you can then play... the Tides of Innsmouth with exactly the same character sheet rules explaining how you can do that. So you do get advantages and both disadvantages. So the more adventures you complete as one character will give you boons, but also possible penalties.
Oh, that's a good way to balance it. Yeah, because I was just thinking if you've been through 1 or 2 adventures, then surely you're going to have all of these extra points and resources and that sort of stuff. But if you're also picking up, which makes a lot of sense in a Lovecraftian world, if you're picking up all of these different weaknesses and issues to balance it out, so you can't just storm straight through an adventure. Yeah. So
you can the stars that you get effectively work out as experience points. So you can then spend those in different ways on your basic stats to slowly raise them as well.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think this has been really good fun, and apologies again for the technical issues, everyone. But I still think we were able to get a really fun sampling of the book, and there'll be I've included links in the description below, so hopefully folks can go and check that out. At the Aconyte website, I see the whole range, as well as a link over to Amazon if they want to pick up the book there. But yes, available now. Tides of Innsmouth. Really good fun. Jonathan, thank you again for joining me and for talking us through it, because it's terrific.
Well, thank you.
Fantastic. And everybody in the chat, thank you very much for taking part. Really appreciate you being here and sharing those suggestions, even if we did make relatively short work of this particular investigation. Not probably our finest hour, but I will admit, based on the other game books and puzzle books that I've done on stream, this is par for the course for me. So I have performed very badly at game books. I should have let everybody know up front that I can't be trusted, but there you go.
We didn't die, so it's not all bad.
No, exactly. We got out.